It's the double standard for me. It's the double standard. The fact that we all remember very well when Lyndall threw a fit because he saw Nkateko and Caesar sort of cuddling or hugging and him sort of giving a piggyback, right? And yet he's not upset or he doesn't see how him receiving a present from Tabby could upset Caesar. I don't get it because I can only imagine what he would have done if Kateko had decided to bring a present for Caesar. He would have blown his top. He would have blown his top because he would have said, "Oh, she's disrespectful." These people on this show really like to say somebody's disrespectful. I don't think they understand the meaning of disrespectful because they do the exact same thing, and yet when somebody else does it, oh, they're disrespectful. But when it's them, hey, anyway, I digress. Hey there, thanks for stopping by. It's Valerie. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, click the like button, turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos, and definitely leave a comment. In this episode, I'll be reviewing The Ultimatum South Africa, Season 1, Episode 7. Where to start? I really don't even know where to start because it's very sad and very embarrassing that a grown person cannot sort of read the room and sort of make changes or be able to know when she's out of pocket, because they have this conversation with the producer Sally and House is sort of saying, now you're going back to be with your partners, and they sort of ask Nkateko, so what are you bringing to your relationship, or what do you feel is your requirement as you go back into your original couple? And he said, I just hope Kanya can keep things civil and respectful, and that set her off. Because then she started kicking off, and it's like, why do you have to say things that are derogatory and disrespectful? You can prove your point, or you can make a point without being derogatory, without being disrespectful, without yelling or shouting at someone or belittling someone and making them feel less than. And you could see that everybody was cringing, everybody was embarrassed, they wanted to hide. Even the hosts, you could tell that Sally was embarrassed for her. Everybody was embarrassed, and her husband, you could tell, wasn't taking it. And so by the time Nkateko said, I had a conversation with Isaac and we were discussing and we both agreed, about certain things that Kanya does that we don't like, and, that she needs to work on. And that set her off because she was telling them, you're not man enough. And it's like, why do you question their manhood? Just because they're questioning your intentions or your actions, is that a reason enough for you to question their manhood? You would question their manhood if they accepted every single thing you do, but they're questioning, they're disagreeing with you, and this is why you feel the need to sort of humiliate them and sort of be disrespectful. I love the fact that Courtney spoke up and sort of said in a confessional, Kanya thinks she runs the villa. She walks around as though she's Queen Bee, and yet she's not. And I think somebody really needs to humble her. Because I don't like the way she carries herself. There's nothing special about her. There's nothing stand-outish about her. So I don't get it. You could see that Caesar wasn't happy when Kanya was sort of saying everything she was saying about Nkateko. You could see she wasn't happy, but she couldn't say anything. She was just willing him to say something. And by the time, she finished whatever she was trying to say, everybody had switched off. Ruth was just rolling her eyes. And they then finished off, and, everybody said goodbye after, they had a conversation about Ruth and Isaac, and Ruth and Isaac were sort of blaming each other. Oh, you neglected me, or, I'm not responsible for you sleeping with somebody else. And it's like, let's see how it goes. After goodbye, I found it strange the way Tabby and sort of Lyndall were sort of hugging each other and sort of, saying goodbye to one another. And it's like, this is inappropriate. Both your partners are here. And so what are you trying to do? What are you trying to say? And for Lyndall, the way he was hugging Tabby, given how he wouldn't even hold his own girlfriend that he gave an ultimatum's hand, I don't get it. Because when he came into the ultimatum, he was refusing to hold Caesar's hand. Even when she tried to call him baby or whatever, or I love you, she told him, no, I don't want to hear it. And yet he's busy crying his eyes out for Tabby. I don't get it. Genesis felt some type of way. I think he felt intimidated. Obviously he was intimidated when they first matched because of the fact that, he's smaller than Lyndall, and so I don't know. And then you had Genesis and Courtney say goodbye. They are now best buds. They've agreed to be best buds. I was a bit surprised with the hug between, Courtney and Aiden. It seemed like a friendship hug. It didn't seem like a romantic hug, but then That's just me. And then, oh, my favorites. When they were hugging, you could hear sort of Caesar trying to hype up, Nkateko, sort of saying to him, you need to, take care of yourself. You need to be able to speak up for yourself and say what you want and what you expect. And then they sort of quieten their mics as they, we had Kanya complaining, oh, they are trying to get under my skin. And it's like, why? Why are they getting under your skin? Everybody else around you is hugging. Their partners are not complaining that they're getting under their skin. Why are you so intimidated? And I love the fact that Nkateko tried to smooth things over with Isaac and tried to sort of calm him down and pacify him and tell him, don't be offended by what Kanya says. That's who she is. Just don't mind her. And it's like, that's not good enough. We can't keep making excuses for people's silly behavior. I don't like that. I'm going to be respectful and not say anything derogatory, but seriously, it's the audacity for me. It's the audacity. Kanya, I'm lost for words. I'm speechless. Kanya, she came in, she ignored Nkateko. Nkateko didn't pander to her. He didn't try and beg her for a conversation. He just proceeded to get himself ready for bed and just sat on the bed and was going through his phone. And this must have aggravated Kanya because I think she expected him to beg her, to plead with her, whatever. And he didn't. So for her to be that disrespectful that she throws a bottle at him or pours wine on him, oh my God. I can only imagine how his mom feels seeing this because she was already bitter about this woman and now seeing how badly her son is being treated. And sadly for Kanya, Nkateko has had the opportunity to find peace. He's had the opportunity to find someone who respected him, honored him, treated with empathy, care, compassion. And so this is something, as he said, that he was expecting, because he even said he's dreading going back to Kanya because he had this sort of amazing time with Caesar. So to go back to suddenly having someone shouting and swearing, and the audacity to say, oh, how can he come in my bed with that body that he was rolling around in Caesar's bed? And it's like, so what, did you expect him to have a body transplant before he came back to you? What did you expect? What did you think, Sherlock Holmes? Why didn't you take him to the shower and bleach him and clean him out and take off any scent of Caesar? I think she is bitter and she's jealous about the fact that he had this great connection, and he seems to still harbor feelings for Caesar, and this is why she behaved the way she behaved. It's sad, really sad. Okay, I'm going to ask a question. Does everybody remember when Lindele moved in with Tabby, how he was running around helping her unpack her suitcases, how he was running around helping her pick the nightie that she was going to wear, and yet he's back with Caesar. Caesar has to ask him, do you need me to help you unpack? And he's stroppy, he's in a mood. I think he's in a mood because he knows that Caesar had an amazing time and Caesar didn't want to come back home. And so this is why he's now, oh, you didn't consider me. The fact that you were out there being intimate with Nkateko, that was inappropriate. The fact that, and it's like, please, sit down somewhere, buddy. Sit down. We are not here for your emotional blackmail. You did worse. You were crying the day before you had to go back to Caesar. So please sit down somewhere, buddy. Please sit down. And the fact that you were busy in your confessional saying, I hope that Genesis doesn't change anything. That way you could stand a chance with Tabby. We're not buying your crocodile tears. We're not buying your fake anger. Please sit down, buddy. Please sit down. And I feel bad that, Caesar has to actually beg him and plead him. I wish she had stood up for herself. This is one thing that Nkateko was trying to help her do, to stop people walking all over her just because she's too nice. I wish even though she said to him, you and I were doing the same thing, but you were doing it outside. And it's like, seriously. You had this connection that you told someone you loved them, and she didn't tell Nkateko she loved him, but you are more offended because she was out there and Nkateko was carrying her. And you were saying that, oh, she's too heavy for him. Please sit down. Please sit down. We're not buying your fake tears. Double standard for me and the audacity. So you have Genesis and Tabby go to their place. They walk in. Genesis has managed to get Tabby a couple of presents. And then there's this big bag on the bed that says love. And for me, this is what I don't like. Okay, I'm happy for Tabby. She got these gifts. He bought her a teddy bear, and she's excited. And yet the gift bag says love, 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 and it's like this is inappropriate. If you wanted to buy her a gift, fine. Yes, you had a note with your nicknames or pet names that you gave each other, fine. But still, we didn't see Caesar open a parcel from him. And so the audacity for him to be upset that Caesar was busy making out with Keteko outside, and yet he couldn't even get her a box of chocolates or even just a flower to say, I missed you, but had the time and energy to go and buy a present for somebody else's girlfriend doesn't make sense. And also for Tabby to turn around and say to Genesis, oh, I didn't get you anything, but I got something for, this, I got something for Lyndall. It's like, seriously, this is why Isaac said they're confused adults. They are very confused, because if they love each other that much, if they like each other that much, why then don't they stick together and allow other people to move on? To be good for my girl, because at least Caesar can have, the door wide open to go back to Nkateko, who treated her like the queen that she is. Really, I don't get it. I felt sorry for Genesis. You could tell he was broken. He was a broken man because he didn't get the romantic aspect of a connection in his couple. And so to have his partner that he thought he had a great bond with suddenly have feelings for somebody else was upsetting for him. And he actually said to her, if you really like this man that much, I'm happy to walk away. I don't want you to choose me just because we've been together for a long time. I want you to choose me because our connection is stronger. And I was like, oh, it's really sad. I hope if she wants to go back to Lyndall, she can go back. And I hope he finds this person who will appreciate the man that he is. Aiden are a mystery to me. I don't know whether they're a mystery to anybody else. I really don't understand them. They're very emotionally distant. It's like, I don't get it, because when they saw each other at the recoupling, I expected them to, jump on each other and be kissing and hugging and whatever, but they were just performative. And so for them to get to the apartment and all you have is Aiden has got chocolates, Ferrero Rochers, and a couple of, other chocolates laying about. That's what she's got for him, and a pair of socks. And then he turns around and says, I didn't get you anything because I didn't have money. And it's like, seriously, let us be serious. You were in a couple and your partner left the experiment, which means you had a lot of time to prepare. Out of everybody else, you should have been the one who was most prepared. You should have had flowers. You should have had, a perfume, jewelry, something to give her. Even a box of chocolates with flowers would have been better than for you to say, I didn't get you anything because I didn't have money. And even she was like, nah, that's not good enough. And it surely is not good enough for him to say that. And I feel sorry for her. But then at the same time, for them to have this conversation about, oh, if you continue to take me for granted, then I'm going to walk. And for him to say, I also have some demands. And then suddenly it's like, let's go to bed. And it's like, oh my God. Oh my God, if only Genesis could see this, then he would understand that it's actually not him, it's Courtney actually, who's very distant in her relationship, and she's coupled up with someone who's just as distant. So this is why they've been together for 7 years, because otherwise it doesn't make sense to anybody else. Even when they were cuddling and stuff, oh my God, I even saw better chemistry between Kanye and Nkateko when she was pouring wine on him than that. And it's like, this is sad. This is really sad. I don't get why they're together. I don't see anything that makes them, this happy couple that are ready to be married. Obviously, Courtney is saying she's not sure whether he's going to propose, and it's like, you have way more problems than proposal. The two of you need to go to therapy. Seriously, this is not enough. You need to go to therapy. Ruth is that girl. Ruth is the girl that Kanye wishes she was, because she has this conversation. Obviously, there is tension with Isaac because Isaac feels some type of way about, Ruth sleeping with Nolan, even though Nolan has gone. So she apologizes for how he found out. She doesn't apologize for having sex, but she apologizes for how he found out and how she responded when he found out. But she doesn't apologize for having sex. And he is upset because he wanted her to apologize for having sex. And she's like, nah, I'm not apologizing for that because that was my choice. I chose to do that. So I will not apologize for that because that's not a mistake. And one thing that has been consistent with Nola and with Ruth, they've never apologized for having sex. They've apologized for hurting people's feelings, but they've never apologized. They've always said, we did it because we wanted to do it. and for no other reason than we wanted to do it. So for her to stand 10 toes deep with the chest out and say, I only apologize for mistakes, and sleeping with Nolan wasn't a mistake, it's like, so what do you do then? What do you do? What do you do? And so Isaac then throws a fit and says, I'm going to spend the night at home. I can't spend the night here because Nolan wasn't here. And it's like, but the producers are messy as well, because how could they bring him in the same room that, his partner slept with someone in? That's a bit messy. They should have asked them to swap villas with somebody else. That's just my opinion. They shouldn't have put them in the same villa that, this deed took place. I feel some type of way. So let's get this right. Lyndall didn't get Caesar anything. Tabby didn't get Genesis anything, but they got each other presents, and they were using pet names that they were using as a couple. So in the morning, she takes across a present to Lyndall, and sadly, Caesar is not there, and it's this teddy, and she's put a kiss on it, and it's like, this is inappropriate. This is an inappropriate present. For you to say what goes around comes around, and then for you to say, I thank you for an amazing time, and then put your lips on that note doesn't make sense to me. And the way he was excited, the way he was hugging her, it's as though she's given him, I don't know, R1,000,000 or something like that, when she's only given him a t-shirt. I don't get it. And even her excitement at the teddy bear. This is why Isaac said they're confused. And for him to stand outside and hug her after he kicked off because he felt some type of way about Caesar hugging Kateko outside. The double standard is shocking. And I'm surprised he's not embarrassed. He really is not embarrassed. And for him to say, oh, I nearly called Caesar boopsie. And it's like, oh my God. They're very immature. And I don't get their connection. I get the connection between, maybe it's because they're my favorite, Caesar and Kateko, because it's mature. It's a mature connection with love, compassion, empathy, understanding. Whereas this one, it's like a high school type of love. That's the opinion that I get. And for him to say, I haven't had anyone understand me in such a short period of time. You have given someone an ultimatum in 6 months to say you want to marry them, and yet you're talking about someone in 3 weeks who has made such a massive impression on you. There's something wrong with you, buddy. I think you're easily impressed. Isaac is crazy. So Isaac comes back and he says he forgives, Ruth for sleeping with Nola. The forgiving her is not the issue. It's the fact that, the trust, and it's okay. It's understandable. It's understandable that he would be concerned about, you would have trust issues, that is she going to sleep with the next person anytime she feels like I've neglected her. So I get where he's coming from, but for him to then throw a fit and want to sleep on the couch when he was complaining that he couldn't sleep on the couch and slept in the same bed as Kanye doesn't make sense. And for him to come back to the bed and say, I've come back to the bed because the couch is uncomfortable. And it's like, so why are you throwing a tantrum? Why are you, behaving that way? I don't get it, and I don't understand it. And it's the immaturity for me. It's the attention seeking for me. For him to fist bump her, I feel like Isaac came back because he still wanted to be on the show, or the producers must have sucked up to him and told him, we'll give you a good edit. You need to come back. Otherwise, we'll only have 3 couples and we won't have enough material for the rest of the season. That's the impression that I get, because I don't get why he would come back if he was that offended that he couldn't stay in the same sort of villa, and then now he's come back and he's sleeping. Well, he's sleeping on the side that Ruth was sleeping, so I guess that's a one thing. The double standard with Lyndall is shocking. It's shocking, and I'm surprised that Caesar went back to him. I'm surprised, because really from the moment she got back to him, he went back to his ways, and he's been very, at first I thought he was trying to disconnect from her. When they started in the experiment, I thought he was trying to disconnect, that way he could fully sort of embrace the experiment. But the fact that he's gone back to his partner and he's actually worse than he was at the start doesn't make sense. He's just as bad in my eyes as Kanye. The only difference is he's not using derogatory terms, because of the fact that he held Caesar's feet to the fire and said, you disrespected me because you are out there, you are hugging Kateko, you are doing whatever you're doing with Kateko out in the open for everybody else to see. He got a present from Tabby. He kept the bag and the note because he wanted Caesar to see it. I think he was trying to be spiteful, as she said. He was trying to take his revenge and show her that you're not the only person who cares about me. And so for him to keep that there and leave it out in the open for her to see, I don't think was appropriate. I think he should have hidden his present, come back, and then explain to her, Tabby came while you were out, she brought me a present, and this is what she brought. And for her to have to ask him, so what are you going to do about this gift? I don't get it. He himself should have taken it back if he saw that that's how unhappy Caesar was, because Caesar didn't bring anything that Nkateko bought her. And if you look at Caesar's been wearing Kateko's rings. Even in a confessional, she wears this ring with a black little stone and then the silver one. Nkateko had those things at the start of the season. When the season started, he was wearing them and she's using them in her confessionals. And so, yeah, it's not a good look, but I think the way they're behaving, for me, is not it. It's not it at all. And I think he feels some type of way, Lindell, that, Caesar and Kateko had this very strong bond. So he's trying to sort of show off and rub it in her face, in my opinion, that, well, you're not the only one who had a strong connection. I also had one, and this is what she did for me. That's what I get. I am here for Nkateko. Nkateko, him being with Caesar was good for him. It was good for him because it allowed him to see what he wanted, what he deserved and what he did not deserve in life. So he comes back with these parcels from Woolworths and he's bought her Nando's. So she is happy. I assume this is where she normally likes to shop because she was complaining that Isaac doesn't go to the same shops that she goes to. And then they have this conversation. She starts he has to apologize. He has to bow down and apologize. And it's sad that with Caesar and Kateko, they had this coupling whereby they understood each other and they always prioritized each other, and when the other person was wrong, they would apologize and they would move on. Yet here they need to apologize in order to be heard. They need to apologize in order to feel loved or appreciated, and that's not it. And so for Kanya to imply that all the time in his coupling, well, she said she felt disrespected by the fact that Nkateko behaved the way he behaved with Caesar, and the fact that they talked about her, and he had to tell her, we never spoke about you. And they really never spoke about her outside of the night that she was nasty to Caesar. We never heard them say anything about her. So the idea that she would assume that their day and night was consumed by her doesn't make sense. And I love the fact that when she tried to say, oh, I'm not afraid of spiders, I'm not like Caesar, he just laughed. He just laughed because I think for him, he's just decided to laugh at what he thinks is silly and address what he thinks is appropriate. And so for her, I didn't get it. And he had to tell her what they were discussing with Isaac, because she was saying, oh, I didn't like the fact that you and Isaac were discussing me. After all, Isaac told me that you and Caesar were dying to have sex. And it's like, even if they were dying to have sex, they did not have sex at the end of the day. They were dying to, but they were able to control themselves. So that's it. What else do you want? And he was right to say, why would you listen to someone who's trying to get into your pants? Which is the truth, though. Isaac was trying to get himself some, so he would say anything or do anything to get what he wanted. And I don't get it. For her to say, I'm not a gold digger. If I was a gold digger, why would I be with you? She is. She knows he comes from money. The way he dresses, the way he carries himself shows he comes from money. I'm very curious to know what his mom does, because I feel like if he doesn't have money of his own, then his mom sponsors his lifestyle. And this is why Kanye is with him, because there's no other reason. I'm a sucker for love. No, you're not a sucker for love. If you were a sucker for love, you wouldn't be that materialistic that you'd complain about where somebody does their shopping, what somebody buys from the shops. Nah. If nothing else, I hope Lyndall takes this time to watch himself on TV and watch how he treats Caesar. And I hope Caesar sees how this man treats her and realizes that she deserves better. She deserves better than this. Because she asked him to take the gift back to Tabby. He promised he would take it the next day. He didn't take it the next day. And he kept making excuse after excuse after excuse until she decided to take it back. And so for him to complain and say, oh, you want things done your way, things are not done your way, then you are upset. And it's like, But you were upset that she didn't hug Kay in their room. You wanted them not to have any PDA outside. And you threw a fit and you had to get a hug from Tabby. Suddenly, because she is telling you she doesn't appreciate your presence coming into a house where the two of you are trying to rebuild your relationship, you are upset. And for Tabby to be upset that, oh, why did she bring it back? Why did she do this? And it's like, how would you feel? Let's say there'd been a romantic connection between Courtney and Genesis, and then you came back to your villa and you found that Courtney had given Genesis a gift. How would you feel about that, Sherlock Holmes? How would you feel? Would you still be excited, or would you have something to say to Courtney about that gift? So please, it's the double standard on both parts. It's the fact that Lyndall and Tabby can't see their wrongs, and Genesis felt some type of way about the fact, and he said, this gift reminds me that she didn't think about me while we were uncoupled. She never took time to think of what I want or what I need. She was busy focused on Lyndall, and now suddenly these are, the results of her actions. And so I don't know. I have to say she is right to bring the present back, and I give credit to Caesar for having the guts to have that confrontational moment, and that moment of empowerment to say, I will not tolerate this behavior. I do not want this. Yes, there was the issue that, Lyndall hasn't told her about the teddy, and she will be upset when she finds out about the teddy. But still, I appreciate the fact that, and I give a lot of credit to Caesar because she was able to take the skill or the empowerment that she got when, I remember when Kateko took her to confront Kanye after Kanye was disrespectful to her. And I think she's learned to self-advocate. She's learned to have these non-toxic confrontational moments, because she was very respectful when she came and she spoke to Tabby. And she actually apologized to Genesis that this was inappropriate for her to do in his presence, but this is something that needed to be done. And so, I don't know. I don't understand why Tabby is upset about it, or I don't even understand why Lyndall is upset. The end of this episode is a bit surprising in the sense that out of the blue you have, Lyndall getting out of bed and leaving Caesar in bed and saying we're struggling, we're having to rebuild our connection, blah, blah, blah. It's understandable because they both say they had very strong connections with other people. So that makes sense. But then for him to say, I don't know what it's going to take for us to get back to where we were. Well, maybe if you stop receiving gifts, and maybe if you stop sort of having inappropriate gestures with somebody else, that could help you sort of rebuild your connection. For some reason, Kanye has decided to forgive Nkateko, and it's like, what did he do? What did he buy her in order for her to forgive him? Because she's not just going to listen to him. He's not just going to turn around and say, I'm tired of fighting. And she says, yeah, I'm also tired of fighting. No, something else happened that caused her to forgive him. I don't believe it was that simple for Nkateko to get a forgiveness from her. And with the double date, it was cute though. It was cute to see them and cute to see how they've actually created a bond because of the connection between Courtney and Genesis. They are now best of friends, which means their partners will now just have to follow along because the other two are friends. And so it's more ideal a friendship because there was no romantic connection involved with the four of them, so it's easy for them to spend time together and be very comfortable. And then Ruth is that girl. If you're going to come with smoke, she's going to give you smoke, because she asked Isaac, why are you still here if you say you haven't forgiven me or you're still upset with me about the fact that I slept with Nola? And then he brings out a ring and she goes, oh, I screwed up. And it's like, well, is that what it took for him to bring out a ring? I feel like he went home and he got the ring. I don't think he had the ring in the first place, because if he had the ring, he should have shown it to her before he packed his bags and went to spend the night or the couple of nights at home. That's just the impression that I get. I really don't like the fact that it seems like Nkateko has forgiven, Kanye and everything she did, the spilling of the wine, throwing the wine bottle and calling his ex-partner all kinds of names. I don't get it, but anyway, I digress. Thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe, and click the link in my video to watch my review from episode 6. Bye guys.